This next episode is about the Book of the Dead, and there's a lot more to this than you might expect. The Egyptian Book of the Dead is a collection of ancient Egyptian funerary texts designed to guide the deceased soul through the afterlife. But here's what you might not know about it. It wasn't a single book, but rather a compilation of magic spells, religious incantations, and instructions for the dead. I'm of the opinion that this book was a grouping of ancient knowledge from various sources, some from the before times, that they found and interpreted in their own way, some that was taught to them, and some that was simply the way that they viewed death as their religion evolved. Some parts are more like a guide for the living and the specifications for what's needed to be a good soul. Although the rules are for life, it was placed in the tombs for death as a reminder of the consequences of not living a good life. The Book of the Dead compiles the core Egyptian beliefs about death, morality, and life after death. It emphasizes the importance of knowing the proper rituals to ensure a successful transition to the eternal world, which was the field of reeds. And many of these rituals involved magic. But what was magic to ancient Egyptians? In many situations, it's just casting a spell. So, is it the magic of words? In my opinion, one of the other remnants of the before times was a recognition of the power of words. Now, you've heard me talk about the remnants or residual technology from a prior time, and this is a residual thought process from a prior time. And this concept of words having power was interpreted by the Egyptians, the ancient Egyptians, as magic, in my opinion. So the concept of residual technology and the magic of words could be something that comes together into one thing. Imagine words and sounds could operate some of the residual technology that they found from the prior times. But to them it was all magic, magic from the ancient ones, magic from the gods. The texts of the Book of the Dead are, as I said, intended to help the dead navigate the dangerous journey through the duat, so that's the underworld. And the book provides, or maybe actually reminds, the deceased of the magic spells that they're supposed to remember, and things that are a bit like passwords, and certain instructions on how to overcome obstacles or defeat hostile beings, and ultimately achieve the great goal of eternal life, and even more importantly, favor among the gods. So there are roughly 200 of these magical spells, but there are variations within the various versions of the book. So we can't be sure which ones actually work. The famous weighing of the heart ceremony that occurs after death is where the deceased's heart is weighed against the feather of Ma'at. So that's truth and justice. And what do archaeologists say? Well, they say these texts evolved from earlier pyramid texts, which were primarily reserved for pharaohs, and the coffin texts, which were used by the nobles. And by the New Kingdom period, which was, about 1550 to 1070 BC, they actually became accessible to anyone who could afford to use them. So democratizing access to the afterlife. So it, if you had enough money, you could follow the pharaohs. But my big question to everyone is, where did they originate from before they came into existence with the dynastic Egyptians? And what in fact was their original purpose? I have a heap of theories around this particular book, and part of it is regards to the use of words with residual technology, and part of it is the belief system about the afterlife. Those of you familiar with my channel will know that I've mentioned a few times about the belief system around reincarnation and death from the prior times, and the concept that no one wanted to be reincarnated into a primitive civilization. And the best way to prevent that from happening was to preserve the body in such a way that the DNA continued, because it was believed, in my opinion, that as soon as the body had broken down sufficiently that there was no more DNA, then that soul could reincarnate again. And this was something that the ancients did not want to happen when it came to the more primitive civilizations. It'd be all good and fine if they could guarantee that they would reincarnate in an advanced civilization, like Atlantis, for example. But what if they were out in a desert amongst hunter-gatherers? What if they were in a fishing village in the middle of nowhere? This is not something that actually appealed to the ancients at all. So that is my theory about how a lot of this has actually evolved and somehow become a lot of these concepts about the afterlife. But hey, that's just my opinion.
And they're waiting to see, but they won't interfere till disaster